This episode is brought to you by Vineyard Boise Church's 10th annual Summer Movie Night. Join this free community party on July 14th. This year's movie is Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. The movie will play on a 40-foot globe screen after sundown, but the field opens at 8:30 p.m. for activities, including bounce houses, glow sticks, and concessions. This free event is in partnership with Future Public School, Go Team Therapy Dogs, R2L2 Country Dance, and more. So bring your own lawn chairs and blankets to 4950 North Bradley Street in Garden City. Learn more about the Vineyard Boise Church at vineyardboise.org. That's vineyardboise.org.
Today on CityCast Boise, it's Friday, and Blake Hunter and Frankie Barnhill are with me to dig into the week's news. We're talking school dress codes, a new lawsuit against the abortion trafficking ban, and why watching people fall off paddleboards is the most relaxing Boise activity. It's Friday, July 14th. I'm Emma Arnold, and this is what Boise's talking about. Hi, Blake. Hi, Frankie. Happy Friday.
Hey, Emma. Happy Friday.
Almost to the weekend. Woohoo.
Almost. We're so close. Well, why don't we start with talking about the heat, because I feel like that's on everyone's mind. It's all I can think about. Blake, is there any relief in sight?
Kind of around the corner a little bit. Like early next week, we're going to dip back down into like low 90s for the high, but this weekend is going to be very hot. Saturday, the high is about 100 degrees. But then Sunday, the high is 106 degrees. So
what? 106?
Yeah. It's just kind of one of those like deadening, like you can't really do anything heats.
No.
I mean, even for like the Hey Boise newsletter that I write, like I've been looking for events this week, and it's just like kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel a little bit, because like no one wants to do anything other than like maybe go sit in the river a little bit. So yeah, it's going to be really hot this weekend. So take care of yourself out there.
For events, we can use Minerva's freeze your bra pad and put it in your bra.
Yeah.
That's my event for Sunday.
Yeah, make a tepid bath for yourself. And yeah, it is kind of crazy because we've obviously seen around the country the really dangerous, deadly heat, and like it's finally arrived in Boise and in Idaho. And I mean, we got a little bit of a reprieve in June generally, but it's here now.
Yeah, we got spoiled. And you know the hard thing about July for me is you're like, I hate July, but August is coming and it's worse. That's always the hard thing here, I think. So, well, if it's hard on us, me with my AC cranking, it must be especially hard on our unhoused neighbors. What can we do to help, Blake?
Yeah, this is an especially tough time. I mean, like we talk about, you know, the cold of winter being really dangerous for unhoused people. The heat is really... frankly, like the killer. Like this is an extremely dangerous situation. We're talking about like 160 degrees where like, I mean, anyone who's out in that kind of heat, even in like a little bit of shade on the sidewalk, like for 20 minutes, like you know what that can do to your body. And it's actually genuinely unhealthy for your organs. Like it's really, really bad for you. A big thing to focus on this weekend for people is going to be hydration, just because that's the main counter other than actually getting into, you know, AC. So people are asking for a lot of water, like big packets of water for Boise Mutual Aid, and, you know, things like coolers, ice packs, that kind of thing. So this is really a weekend to be paying attention to people that you're seeing out and about, and I almost think of this as kind of like the summer's going to get worse as we go on, but also our summers are going to get worse generally. You know, there's a lot of really bad climate data coming out right now. Like these days in the past week have been literally the hottest that we've ever recorded on planet Earth, possibly for over 100,000 years. The Antarctic ice caps aren't freezing over. It's the dead of winter there. They should be, and they're not. Like it's getting really bad. And I think I would urge Boiseans to kind of think of this as like a practice round this weekend of like how we can kind of get our community through this kind of really exhausting heat, because unfortunately it is going to get worse. So this is really a time to tap into like, if I'm feeling like this, what can I do to kind of help alleviate other people? and make sure that everyone gets through this as best we can. So really try to tap into your empathy this weekend, because it's really, really bad for you to be out in this kind of heat. So we need to make sure that our neighbors stay safe.
Yeah, Blake, those are great resources. Another one to mention is the Idaho Immigrant Resource Alliance's their heat and smoke fund relief. You wrote about that recently, and that's open too. And they're looking for donations to help out folks who are, essential workers gathering food in Idaho for us and out because they have to be working every day in the heat. And then, of course, when the smoke comes, that can be really dangerous as well.
Yeah, good to keep in mind. And also, Boise Kitchen Collective, Boise Mutual Aid, they also have resource guides and say what they need if you follow their Instagram or look at their website. So that can be a really helpful resource too there. Well, I want to talk about a couple stories that are actually pretty closely related. Frankie, the Boise School Board just approved a new dress code, right?
Yeah, so this will go into effect when school starts this next semester, so in August, and it was a unanimous passage by the school board. And basically, they looked at data around in order to come to this conclusion that they needed to update the dress code that showed that there were differences in what populations of students were getting dinged, were getting disciplined for dress code violations. Specifically, they found that female students and students of color were disproportionately targeted and received citations. So, yeah, I mean, the new policy, the goal is to try to cut down on some of the vague, arbitrary language in the previous one, and hopefully to improve the way that students and staff deal with these issues, and parents too. And then also giving, parents some more control over what the kids dress like. There was one woman, Idaho Education News did a great story, a roundup on this, and they quoted a parent who testified talking about her daughter and how she basically was A/B testing the dress code, where she had her friends wear the same clothes that she wore, and the friends wouldn't get a violation and she would, basically because she has breasts, and that's her body. So that was really interesting. We'll see how this actually plays out, if it does limit how many of these students are getting these kind of violations, and they can add up. And so, it's a fascinating move for the Boise School District to make.
I think this is so interesting. And this was quite a few years ago, but my kid was going to a sixth grade dance, and before the dance, a piece of paper was sent home about the dance dress code that had a gigantic, 2 paragraphs, really long paragraphs about what girls were allowed to wear. No spaghetti straps, no showing cleavage. I mean, this is a sixth grade dance, no cleavage, no short skirts, no showing bare arms. And then for boys, it was nice slacks. And the letter I wrote, the calls I made. And actually, the principal was very apologetic and was like, I didn't even see this. This got sent out by some parents, actually, who were helping with the dance. But I was livid because I was like, I have 3 sons, so it didn't really affect them a whole lot, other than they had to wear slacks, which was, I'm sure, very traumatizing for them.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that this new dress code is great. And it's pretty interesting, the timing of this, because the ACLU just released this report about Canyon County School District's dress code. And they say that it's discriminatory and it violates Latino students' civil rights.
Yeah, this is fascinating, and what a dual, two worlds right now with these two stories in some ways. So the report really goes into, again, how these policies, dress code policies, disproportionately affect and target a certain group, Latino students specifically, and that they allege that this, is a violation of their civil rights. Specifically, there was a lot of talk in the report about the term gang-related, quote-unquote, items. Things like students wearing rosary beads, that would be considered gang-related.
Red or blue, that was something.
Yes.
And in, I think it was the Idaho Capital Sun article, they were talking to people who were like, if I wear red as a Latino student, I get pulled in, but then white kids wear red and they don't, know? So yeah, really interesting.
They also said, in the Caldwell and Nampa school districts, besides the gang dress codes, that police play a role in advising and sometimes even enforcing these dress codes. It's also talking the civil rights piece, of course, rosary beads. I mentioned that because it's freedom of religion for these students. And so I don't know. I'm curious to see if anything changes with this, if it's a wake-up call. And there has been a lot of, there have been stories in the last year or so about Black and brown students, specifically brown students in the Canyon County school districts that are, standing up for their rights and saying, like, we're being treated unfairly. And so could this maybe make some change? We'll see.
Yeah. And I think from that same article, they said that Latino students were disciplined at twice the rate of their white peers in the Canyon County schools, which is just a really alarming statistic. Like, Canyon County schools really needs to be taking care of this and looking into it.
Yeah. I think it was 70. This was a stat that jumped out to me too. 70% of dress code violations in the Caldwell school districts were received by Latino students. 70%.
Wow. And that's disproportionate, right? They're not the majority. So, yeah.
Whether you're searching for the latest sneaker drop, that iconic handbag, a timeless watch, or your next piece of classic jewelry, eBay authenticators are there, verifying every detail of your purchase. With years of experience, they're making sure the piece you're searching for is worthy of your collection. eBay's authenticators are experts in their craft, true connoisseurs, and as leaders in their fields, they're making sure your items always arrive as authentic as your style. In a world full of fakes, it's time to get real with eBay Authenticity Guarantee. Everyone deserves real. Visit ebay.com for terms.
What is chronic migraine?
It's 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more. Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. It's not approved for adults with migraine who have 14 or fewer headache days a month. Ask your doctor about Botox.
Botox is a prescription medicine injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Talk to your doctor and visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
Well, let's switch gears here, because before we go, I want to talk about abortion like I always do. A couple groups, including the Northwest Abortion Access Fund, who I should say I've worked with in the past several times, they have filed a lawsuit against the state of Idaho challenging the abortion trafficking law.
Yeah, and specifically, they filed a lawsuit against Idaho Attorney General Raul Labrador's office. And this law, just to refresh people's memory, because there's a lot of abortion bans, a lot of different laws going on. This is the one that would criminalize an adult who transports a minor or in some way, helps them get across state lines to obtain an abortion. We made national headlines this year when that went through the legislature. So it's a law that other states, perhaps other conservative states, are looking to say, we should do that too. But as often happens when our Republican-controlled legislature passes something that takes away people's rights, there's a lawsuit that follows. So here we are. And this is interesting. I think one thing that was really, besides the fact that, the Northwest Abortion Access Fund was one of the plaintiffs. Another one is Lourdes Matsumoto. I think I'm pronouncing her name right. She's an Idaho-based attorney, and she's named in the suit because she helps out like victims of domestic sexual violence, including minors who need to access an abortion after being sexually assaulted. And she is concerned about, even though she has client attorney privilege with her clients, that she's still concerned that it could be potentially illegal for her to recommend anything for these clients anymore under this law. So that's an interesting wrinkle to this story. We've, of course, heard groups who've risen up and say this is, going too far, but that's a very specific, they needed to find somebody who this is affecting their life or their work, and having her as a plaintiff, I think, is fascinating.
I'd also add there that there's 3 plaintiffs here, and the third one is the Idaho Indigenous Alliance. And so this is kind of a really interesting trio of groups or parties to be kind of coming at this angle. And so I'm really interested because Well, to my knowledge, this is the first abortion trafficking bill that has gone into effect in the nation. And so this is the first lawsuit against that, I think, unless I'm incorrect about that. And so, you know, in Idaho, we love to really be on the cutting edge of some of the worst stuff. And so we'll see. I think that this lawsuit will probably be a long run, and we'll kind of see what tone it sets for the rest of the nation. And I mean, this kind of conversation around crossing lines, like this is really deepening what the future of abortion care and a lot of other systems of care, like I think of trans healthcare and things like that. This is really deepening that conversation. And so this is, something that we're going to have to pay a lot of attention to.
Yeah, and there's like another layer to this because this is coming on the heels of the Idaho Maternal Mortality Board being disbanded and the recent news about how drastically the number of abortions performed in Oregon for out-of-state residents went up. It went by like 50%, right?
Yeah, these two Oregon physicians wrote this opinion in the Idaho Statesman that cited, this huge upshoot in cases just in the 6 months following Roe v. Wade being overturned. So some of those months, Idaho's trigger bans, not all of them were actually in effect. And so there's the kind of this weird middle ground, which that is an interesting note too, that this term is thrown around a lot, but like this chilling effect. So like these trigger bans for some of that period weren't totally in effect, but of course people were still traveling out of state because of that. There's so much gray area here. And we've said this before on the show, but that is intentional. Like that is, totally intentional to make sure that or to ensure that people just aren't totally sure what kind of care they have access to. And so that's part of that lawsuit that we just talked about as well, is like that one of the main plaintiffs, that lawyer, is saying like, I don't know what I can tell my patients sometimes.
Yeah, it seems like the disbanding of this board is it's kind of gone a little under the radar, and it seems like a much bigger deal than I think it's being made into. Yeah,
it's true. And, over the last few weeks, there's kind of this 1-2 punch from this board where they released the most recent findings that they had, which was the report into 2021 deaths. So the job of this board is to research and really study each individual pregnancy-related death that occurs in Idaho. And so they're really digging into what happened in each individual one of these cases and then kind of compiling that data and comparing things. Of the 42 pregnancy-related deaths between 2018 and 2021, all but one of them, so 98% of them, was found to be preventable. And so, I mean, obviously that's something that we really need to be staying on top of. We can't now because this board is being disbanded. And that makes Idaho officially now the only state that doesn't have this kind of committee.
Which isn't an accident, right?
No.
The people who want these trigger laws and these abortion laws, they don't want the numbers to back up the fact that there needs to be access to abortion care and to reproductive care.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, we'll keep an eye on all of that. I'm very interested to see how this lawsuit unfolds. It'll be pretty interesting. I want to end on something kind of fun. What's the most Boise thing you saw or read all week? And I'll start. Front page of Reddit. Very proud of us. Whenever Boise or Idaho makes the front page of Reddit, it's always bad. For our 4th of July parade, which featured the Idaho Liberty Dogs, far-right group. They call themselves a militia, but let's not give them that much credit. Yeah. Just a loosely based group of uncles. And they walked in the parade in like full LARPing regalia, and they had big guns and a lot of them, and they were in full tactical gear in the 4th of July parade, kind of mixed in there with, some other, from what I hear, not very exciting, what do you call them? Displays?
Floats?
There were no floats.
Fake floats?
They're not
Fake
floats. I'm not going to say floats because no floats, no candy. I mean, from what I heard from people who went, it was mostly just like fascists.
Yeah.
And then like 2 men in brands. A truck, moving company truck.
Yeah, fascists and brands is what somebody said to me. So yeah, that was what I was like, wow, that is disappointing, and it feels really on point, unfortunately, for Boise getting on the front page. I've never seen good news. So that's mine. What do you got, Blake?
I am taking it a bit more of a wholesome route because it's summer. I've just been able to get on the water this week. And so it's been lovely. And And one of my favorite things that I do is I used to live over like by like the Park Center Bridge area. One of my favorite things to do is just kind of camp out on one of those little banks there and watch people try to stand on their paddle boards over that little rapid right there. It's so fun.
That is great.
It is endlessly entertaining. I love watching the dogs go over because they're so much more on top of it than the humans. Luckily, I haven't seen anyone be hurt, so I promise I'm not being too mean. But people can never stand through it. Like, I've seen it happen like twice when the river is more chill. But it is just a great pastime. So, you know, some people watching on the river is always a great way to spend a workday evening, in my opinion.
That is perfect. That's a perfect one. What do you have, Frankie?
I also took to Reddit earlier this week, and I thought this one was really very quintessential Boise. The headline is, "Quick reminder, outside cat is a quick way to say my pet is part of the food chain."
No, for sure. Yeah.
And this guy is like, okay, saw a coyote walking down the rails, I think the railway, with a big chunk of some unfortunate animal in its mouth next to Franklin between Allenbaugh and Liberty today.
No.
Wasn't able to get a photo, but it's a great reminder that even though we're in the city, that doesn't mean there's not wild animals out and about, including predators. If there's one that deep in town, you can safely assume they could be pretty much anywhere. If you care about your pets, if you care about your cats specifically, keep them off the menu, is what he said. And I don't know. I thought, good reminder that we live in sure, it's a city, but we always we're still lucky enough to have wildlife around. And in some ways, with climate change and stuff, we might be seeing it more and more as they come down to the valley to get access to things like food and water, including your outdoor cat. So
yeah, and that's not in the foothills. Like I saw that post too when I started reading it, I thought, well, yeah, if you live in the foothills, you should probably keep your cat inside. But I'm like, Franklin and Allenbaugh is the middle of Boise.
It really is.
Bench stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think that that's becoming more and more true. Also, hawks and stuff.
Totally.
Eagles, like we have bald eagles and golden eagles, you know.
Yes.
Something can nab your cat, so be careful with that for sure.
Well, the other thing I learned is that there's a thing called a catio. I didn't know about this. I'm not a cat person. That you can have a patio for your cat that you can build that's an outside structure of some kind that is confined so that they won't get nabbed by a hawk that's passing by or something. Felt very Boise to me.
That does feel very Boise. A coyote walking down the train tracks near Allenbaugh feels extremely Boise. Watching paddle boarders fall off and guns in the parade. Couldn't get more Boise than that. All right. Well, thank you, too, for helping me round up the week's news. And I will see at least some of you next Friday.
Sounds good. See ya.
Stay cool.
Stay cool. Yeah. That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. The show was produced by Frankie Barnhill, Evelyn Avitia, A.K.L. Mootman, and me, Emma Arnold. Blake Hunter writes our Hey Boise newsletter, and our music is by Up Is the Down Is the. If you enjoyed our show today, leave us a review. It helps other people find us. We'll be back Monday with more stories from around the city. Bye!